bus was thick with overcoats and evening coming in. I kept both gloves around the cold blue handle of the tin. They'd emptied out your locker row by 4:30 or so, and sent me home with all your things to where you do not go. That dent came from a winter slip outside the freight yard gate. You laughed and said a good tin ought to bear a knock of fate. For years I'd packed your apple there, your sandwich wrapped in wax. Today it held your folded cap, your badge, your keys, your tax, and every corner of the route drew one small answering ring, as if the whole day traveled on inside that metal thing. I held it closer to my coat and would not look within. No grief announced itself aloud, no stranger turned to see. A child kept counting numbered stops, an old man coughed at 3. But when the driver braked too hard, it clicked against my ring. And all at once the common ride turned into everything. Then every corner of the route drew one small answering ring, as if the life we made by days still clung to this one thing. I held it where your hand had been and heard what years had hidden. The dent in the lunch tin. At home I set it by the sink, beside the evening bread. The kettle took its time to boil, the lamp burned small and red. And long after the bus went on through slush and 6 o'clock, that little dent kept giving back the shape of one old knock. The banquet hall was not yet bright, the chairs still wore their cloth, and in the florist room behind the ferns lay cool and soft. You stood beside the marble sink with water on your sleeve, a ribbon curled beside the shears, too light to quite believe. The white boxes were marked in rows, the orchids laid in twos. A bellboy came for roses once, then vanished with his shoes. And I, with no appointment there, stayed near the open door to watch you lift a purple bloom as if it weighed much more. The gentleman from table 9 came early, coat in hand, his cufflinks bright, his manners smooth, his smile too well planned. You chose the pin from off the tray, then held the lapel still, and leaned just close enough to work the stem against the twill. He thanked you with a little bow, you only turned away, then checked the ribbon on the box for Mrs. Calder's spray. I said I came to ask the time, though clocks were everywhere, and felt the room grow smaller round that orchid in the air. The pin in the corsage, silver through the green, held one flower near his heart, where mine had never been. The pin in the corsage, I watched your fingers stay, and wondered why a careful touch could take my words away. It was not jealousy, I thought, only June behind a wall, only polished hotel doors, only footsteps in the hall. Yet some small ache will find its proof in what the eye has seen, a flower fastened for another man, and no place left between. The pin in the corsage, hidden sharp and slight, kept the orchid standing proud beneath the banquet light. The pin in the corsage, no promise, no embrace, only your hand making beauty hold on someone else's place. The door swung wide, the music rose, the white boxes grew few, and on the tray one silver pin lay waiting, bright and blue. The day had left its waterings upon the wicker stand. The screen door gave its sleepy tap against the darkening land. The rain came in on cedar smell
and dimmed the garden blue.
You brought the quilt without a word, in squares of faded blue.
You laid the storm across my knees before it reached my skin,
and all the porch grew close and warm, with weather pressing in. I still can hear the old ropes creak,
the soft boards answering.
The whole long night learned how to stay, the quilt on the porch swing. We did not speak of larger things,
The town, the bills, the year.
You only tucked one corner down,
and cool and near,
then sat beside me close enough
to make the thunder mild,
and every patched and weathered square turned homely,
close and kind.
No vows waiting in the dark,
No bright dramatic scene,
only your hand along the hem,
to keep the draft between.
and ever since, when summer breaks,
In leaf and wire and limb,
I think how plain old cotton cloth
can draw the whole world in.
You laid the storm across my knees before it found my bones,
And all the rain beyond the rail
seemed far as other towns. I still can feel the swing move once,
then settle everything,
as if the heart
had always known. The quilt on the porch swing.
by morning it was folded back,
Across the painted slat,
still one small damp and cooling place.
remembered where we sat.
Twilight
Leans upon the wall, the lamp is soft and low, a phonograph begins to turn in accents warm and slow.
you lift your hand to mine,
As if by old design,
the velvet rug remembers still
this faithful step of thine. The quiet measure, we turn where kind years stay, and keep the dark at bay. The quiet measure.
the embers breathe and sigh,
The curtains stir with rain,
you murmur darling near my ear,
and youth comes back again. The window keeps the night, the room keeps one soft star. A little waltz goes drifting by from somewhere not too far. No grand serenade was needed, no bright and distant fire. Your shoulder near my own tonight is all that I require. The quiet measure, quiet measure. The record thins to air, the last note seems to gleam. Still one small measure lingers on, like light inside a dream.
The serving glass had clouded white. The soup pans breathed below, and January filled the tracks with cinders, dusk, and snow. You stood behind the counter there, with steam along your hair. The enamel cups in crooked stacks, the rolls gone hard with air. A porter warmed his hands and left. A sailor asked for tea, and every spoon against a bowl rang small and separately. I ordered coffee just to stay, then held it much too long. The platform board said northbound 5 was nearly due and gone. You took your cloth and reached above the pansy's slow silver eyes, and wiped one circle in the glass, as if to clear my eyes. The steam on the glass, the steam on the glass, made all the room a little world the leaving could not pass. The steam on the glass, then one clear place shone through, and I could see the train outside, still waiting there for you. You counted change for 2 old men, then closed the biscuit tin. The kettle clicked beneath the shelf and settled down again. My ticket lay beside my cup, its corner damp and curled. A little paper permission to step out of that world. You asked if I would need a roll. I said the ride was short. The loudspeaker coughed above the door and named my train and port. You did not tell me not to go or make the moment last. You only wiped the counter clean and did not look too fast. There are departures made with noise, with wheels and iron cars, and some begin in quiet rooms where steam climbs up the walls. I think I knew before I stood, before I touched my hat, that some clear places vanish first when breath comes back to glass. The steam on the glass, the steam on the glass. Close softly where your hand had been before the minutes passed. The steam on the glass, no vow, no grand goodbye, only one circle fading there between the train and I. The northbound pulled beyond the shed. The refreshment room grew small, and in the window's whitening pane, your hand was gone from all.
Twilight rests upon the wall. The lamp is trimmed and low. The phonograph begins to sing in accents soft and slow. You lift your hand to mine as if by old design. The velvet rug remembers well this little step of thine. A little waltz to close the day in grace, with starlight on your face. A little waltz. The teacups have grown still. The fire has lost its flame. Yet when you smile and murmur, darling, the room is young again. The window keeps one star. The curtains breathe and sigh. A silver hush moves through the room, like music passing by. No grand serenade was needed, no trumpet from afar. Your shoulder near my own tonight outshines the brightest star. A little waltz to close the day in grace, with starlight on your face. A little waltz. The record turns to silence. The lamp grows faint and small. Still one sweet measure lingers on. passes all the walls.
Twilight leaned on window glass. The embers breathed below. A phonograph began a waltz in little turns and slow. The velvet chair was moved aside. The supper things were done. You crossed the rug in slippered grace when all the day had run. Your silhouette in lamplight gold came softly into mine, and all at once the humble room grew tender by design. Where the rug remembered our little waltz from long ago, and taught the quiet room to know. Where the rug remembered. You said, my darling, not too fast, so lightly with a smile, as if the years had only passed to bring us here a while. The phonograph gave out a sigh. The curtains held the blue, and every step across the floor felt old and somehow new. One thread of starlight touched the pane. One ember turned to gold. A reverie moved through the room, more dear for growing old. No serenade came through the street. No silver trumpet shone. Only your hand within my sleeve when all the day was gone. And then I knew how love survives, not grand and not in flame, but in the way to faithful feet still answer to one name. Where the rug remembered our little waltz from long ago, and taught the quiet room to know. Where the rug remembered. The record thinned, the lamp burned low. The embers gave their hue. Still on the rug our last small turn looked young enough for two. Twilight leaned on window glass. The room was warm. A phonograph began to sigh, as if the day were through. The velvet chair was set aside, the lamp was turned down low. Your apron slept upon its hook, the fire had lost its glow. You crossed the rug in slippered grace, I stood where I had stood, and all at once the little room went tender as it could. The starlight on the rug lay pale beneath our turning feet, and made the quiet evening sweet. The starlight on the rug. You said, my darling, not too fast, so softly with a smile, as if the years had only passed to bring us here a while. The record gave a little sigh, the curtains barely stirred, and all the things we did not say were sweeter left unheard. The pane held one small silver thread, the mantle kept its gold. A reverie moved through the room, more dear for growing old. No serenade came through the street, no grand occasion shone, only your hand within my own, when all the day was gone. And then I knew how love can live without a trumpet's art, in one slow waltz, one quiet room, and starlight near the heart. The starlight on the rug lay pale beneath our turning feet, and made the quiet evening sweet. The starlight on the rug. The record thinned, the lamp burned low, the room grew soft and still, yet one faint patch of silver stayed, as if it always will. Past the ferry bell, the docks were taking shape. Crates of celery, newspapers, gulls in crooked flight. The ticket man had raised his shade, the river wore its workday gray, and all the town came down in shoes, still carrying last night. You missed one button at your wrist, Your hair was pinned in less than usual care, and standing by the painted post, you smiled as if the cold were nothing there. Half past the ferry bell, half past the ferry bell. That was the hour the morning nearly broke in two. No grand scene, no farewell speech, only the way I reached to fix the cuff you hurried through. Half past the ferry bell, with the first deck chain drawn well, and the smoke going pale above the piling slick with spray. I learned how quickly common hands may tremble for what might be swept away. A boy went by with milk cans clanging. Someone laughed beside a truck. The purser chalked the loading board. The mate called out a word of luck. You said the river looked unkind, too full, too fast for so early in the year. Then glanced once where the current took a crate from some forgotten pier. I took your glove from off the rail before the wind could turn it to the tide. And you grew quiet, not from cold, from something neither one of us described. Half past the ferry bell, half past the ferry bell. That was the hour the plain day altered in its frame. No vow spoken over water, only your face gone softer when I said your name. Half past the ferry bell, while the gangplank rose and fell, and the deckhands moved like men who had no time for fear. I learned how dear a life can look when one small loss comes near. Since then 100 mornings may have crossed, with cleaner skies and calmer boats than that. But memory keeps no weather by the book. It keeps the wet rope, the tilted hat, the wrong cuff, the glove upon the rail, the river shouldering past the pier, and how for one brief breath the whole white day stood still because you were here. Now when a ferry bell comes thin through fog, it is not warning that I hear so well. It is your wrist beneath my hand, half past the ferry bell. Twilight thinned along the pane, the embers breathed below. A phonograph began again, in little turns and slow.
You move the velvet chair aside, I move the smaller one, until the rug lay clear and wide, where all the day was done.
Your slipper found the old wall's place, my hand remembered too.
A little starlight touched your face and silvered all the blue. Before the record slept, we found one waltz the evening kept, and held our ears in step by step. Before the record slept.
The supper things were put away, your apron on the nail,
the lamp made gold of end of day, and warm of every pail.
You said, my darling, not too fast,
so softly with a smile,
as if the years could never pass,
while we could turn a while. The phonograph grew faint and thin,
the fire leaned low and wide,
a hush of reverie came in,
and sat with us
beside.
No serenade came through the street,
no silver trumpet shone,
only your heartbeat near my sleeve.
And all the day was gone,
and I knew how devotion stays
when all the bright years go.
It keeps one quiet waltz alive,
when the embers lean low. Before the record slept,
we found one waltz
the evening kept, and held our ears in step by step. Before the record slept.
The record made one final round,
the embers turned to gold,
still on the rug our shadows swayed,
more dear for growing old.
Twilight thinned along the pane, the embers breathed below, a phonograph began to play in little turns and slow. I moved the velvet chair aside, You folded back the throw. The rug lay open, warm and wide, where evening used to go. Your silhouette came through the blue, in slipper, sleeve and grace. And all at once the room I knew grew younger in its place. When the needle trembled, we kept the old waltz moving light, and held the measure through the slide. When the needle trembled, you said, my darling, not too fast, so softly, with a smile. The little record thinning cast its sigh from file to file. It caught one breath, then found its way. And so, to my surprise, we turned as if the smallest sway could keep the song alive. The starlight touched the window glass. The fire gave back its gold. A reverie moved through the room, more dear for growing old. No serenade came through the street, no silver trumpets shone, only the faith beneath our feet. When all the day was gone, and then I knew what love can do. When brighter years have dimmed, it hears the music falter once, and dances with the hymn. When the needle trembled, we kept the old waltz moving light, and held the measure through the slight. When the needle trembled, twilight leaned on window panes. The cobblestones shone bright. A phonograph breathed soft refrains into the rainy night. The waiter stacked the little plates and turned the corner lamp. The velvet kept its patient warmth against our sleeves grown damp. You stirred the spoon, then set it by, and watched the street below. A teardrop trembled in your eye, but would not let me know, until the cups went cold. We let the rainy hour unfold, and kept the words we could not hold, until the cups went cold. The waiter brought the little tray and left the check with bread. The amber lamp made velvet play in blue and threads of red. You rose a little from your chair, then slowly sat once more. Outside the rain was everywhere. Inside, no one reached the door. The phonograph grew faint and small. A reverie came near. The rain made silver on the wall and held us longer here. No serenade came through the street, no violin took part, only the waiter in retreat, and rain laid softly on my heart. And then I knew what sorrow meant, not thunder, loss or blame, but staying past the time we spent, still warming one dear name, until the cups went cold. We let the rainy hour unfold, and kept the words we could not hold, until the cups went cold. At last you drew your gloves on slow. The rain had weakened gray. One pale ring kept a little glow, long after you went away. The driver shuts the baggage door. A thin lamp shakes above the street, and someone stamps the cinder snow from city shoes to country feet. I take the place we always took, left side midway, not too near. The heater with its iron breath, not where the baby cries are clear. The conductor comes with narrowed shears, snips blue stars through every fare, then tips his cap and moves along. 2 seats, one mine and one still bare. A lunch pail rolls beneath a bench. A woman knots her little boy's scarf tight. The window clouds, then shows one drugstore sign and loses it tonight. The seat by the aisle stays open all the way, though every mile gives someone cause to stand. No one asks to have it, no one lays a hat or paper there by chance. The seat by the aisle rides empty next to me, past Quarry Road and the shuttered filling station light. And I learn how much a thing can hold by what is missing from it tonight. At Mercer stop, 3 farmers board with wool on sleeves and weather in their cuffs. A girl in white shoes counts her change. A soldier yawns and shifts his duffel twice. The heater ticks, the roof begins. It's steady talk above the panes. And every town goes by in signs. A church, a mill, a row of chain-hung gates. I smooth your ticket from my pocket fold, though it was used last Tuesday week, as if a thumb mark in the paper still might tell me where to look. You never claimed that road was long. You always said we'll soon be through, then slept a little toward my side when the bus took curves the way it do. Now all the turns come back alone. The dark farms drift, the roadside dips, and even the glass remembers how your breath once silvered it. The seat by the aisle stays open all the way, past the feed store porch and the crossing arm gone black. No trumpet grief, no spoken vow, only the room one body leaves and does not take back. The seat by the aisle keeps faith with empty space, while the last town's thin and the headlamps comb the grade. And I learn how long the heart can ride beside the shape your leaving made. The driver calls the county line. The suitcase sighs against the rack. I rise when my stop comes into view, and leave that second seat untouched.
Twilight clung to window glass. The floorboards held the blue. A magnolia breathed below, where dawn was coming through. The canvas waited pale and still. The jars were lined in gray. My silhouette beside the pane looked softer with the day. No footsteps stirred the little room. No word had yet begun. Only the rag, the brush, the hush, and one unopened sun. The first gold on glass lay quiet on the jars and wall, and made the little room seem all. The first gold on glass. A teardrop trembled near my hand, then vanished in the light. The rooftops gave their last faint blue and yielded up the night. I did not lift the waiting brush. I only stood and knew some gentle things arrive on earth before we ask them to. A reverie moved through the room, so warm, so faint, so slow. The starlight left the window pane to let the morning grow. No serenade came through the street. No banner met the sky. Only a little golden hush and one awakening sigh. And then I knew how beauty starts. Not trumpets blaze or cry, but where a common pane of glass lets one kind hour go by. The first gold on glass lay quiet on the jars and wall, and made the little room seem all. The first gold